if the fight will be one of those three that I just mentioned.
It's one of those three.
Oh, okay.
I like it. It's one of those three.
Oh,
One
three.
thing about Virgil Ortiz, he will fight anybody. He's ready. He's on that level. I strongly feel that the names you just mentioned are viable opponents for Virgil Ortiz to make great fights and to see who's the best. And obviously, when you sign up for this sport, you sign up to be a world champion. You sign up to be the best. And that's exactly what Virgil wants.
Oscar de la Hoya has officially announced what fans have been waiting for. Virgil Ortiz will fight Terence Crawford in a fight that everyone is looking forward to. This news has electrified the boxing world, with Ortiz stopping up to take on one of the sport's pound-for-pound greats. Now the stage is set for an epic fight between a hungry young competitor and a master of battle. When Ortiz thought about the chance to fight Crawford, he talked about what it was like to take on one of the best fighters in the world. It was clear that his goals come from a deep respect for his opponents and a wish to get better. "Yeah. Look, I love testing myself," he said. "You know, when I say I want to fight someone, it's not that I don't like them or anything, it's like I respect them as a fighter. You know, I'm not going to go and call out some guy that's 2 wins and 13 losses. You know, that doesn't do me any good." This statement underscores Ortiz's competitive spirit and his refusal to take the straightforward path. His respect for Crawford as a fighter further highlights his professionalism and sportsmanship. Ortiz proceeded to elucidate his specific motivation for pursuing Crawford. Crawford emphasizing his desire to prove himself against the very best in the sport. He stated, "So I want to fight the best. You know, I believe Crawford is the top 3-pounder in the world, and I just would love to test myself against someone like that. You know, I just want to test my ability despite the hype surrounding the announcement." Ortiz acknowledged the ongoing negotiations and the uncertainty about his opponent and expressed his readiness for the February fight regardless of who ends up across the ring. His statement reflects Ortiz's clear focus and no-nonsense attitude. He's not letting the uncertainty of negotiations distract him from his preparation, maintaining the mindset of a fighter ready to deliver his best.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as I know that I'm reading on the internet is that there's negotiations that are being made at this moment. It could be in February. That's when I'm gonna fight. If it's him or not, I'm fighting in February. You know, I really don't know who it's gonna be against. Yeah, I think I'm gonna fight here in February. So regardless of who it is, it's gonna be here. It could be him. It could not be. As I can't really tell you. You know, they don't ask me who I want to fight. You know, they just, if they want to take it, then we'll take it. But like I said, I don't care who I fight.
Ortiz went into more detail, showing cautious optimism while keeping hope and realism in check. While waiting for final proof, he said, "Yeah, we're on time. We will be able to say who it is. I don't want to say something and then be let down, but I think we are on the right track. Getting into a good fight next month." Ortiz's calm response shows how mature he is when it comes to the business side of boxing. Being patient and professional shows that he's ready for the fight in the spotlight. Ortiz also expressed cautious optimism about the ongoing negotiations. He wouldn't say for sure, but he hinted that progress was being made. His approach of patience and positivity shows that he understands how complicated the business side of boxing. Ortiz's professionalism continues to shine as he keeps his eye on the bigger picture.
You had all the big names in there: Sebastian Fundora, Terence Crawford, Jaron Ennis. Are we any further afield? Oscar Smiles, are we any further afield with that shortlist?
Yeah, we are. Of course, in due time, we'll be able to say who it is. I don't want to say something and get disappointed, but I think we're on a good track on getting a good fight next.
Terence Crawford, known for his dominance in the welterweight division, also shared his feelings on Virgil Ortiz. He acknowledged Ortiz's talent and his emergence as one of the top fighters in the division.
You mentioned Ortiz, Virgil Ortiz. How far is he away? How close is he to a title shot in sharing the ring with Bud Crawford?
I don't know. But Virgil, you know, he's right there. You know, he's right there. You know, he's been proven that he belongs with the top fighters in the division. And, you know, who knows? A couple of fights or next fight or whatever the case may be, he might be sharing the ring with Terence Crawford. You never know.
Crawford's remarks reflect his recognition of Ortiz as a worthy challenger, while he stopped short of confirming their matchup directly. His comments show respect for Ortiz's capabilities and his growing presence among boxing's elite. Crawford's acknowledgement adds another layer of excitement to the potential clash as fans eagerly await confirmation of one of the most anticipated fights in recent years. Meanwhile, Oscar de la Hoya spoke about the significance of the matchup, expressing admiration for Crawford's achievements while building anticipation for what he believes will be a monumental fight with Ortiz. He stated, "Yeah, no, Crawford, I love because he's probably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. His style is fan-friendly, he's a tremendous boxer, undefeated. De La Hoya also praises Crawford's skill and legacy, highlighting why he is regarded as one of the top fighters in boxing. His undefeated record and crowd-pleasing style set him apart as a truly special athlete in the sport. He stated, "You know, he went up a weight class and he met up with a guy who was really tough. Sometimes you're not going to look as good as you did in your previous fights. You know, fighting smaller guys, and it's okay. It's a learning process." He has to establish himself at 154. He acknowledged the challenges Crawford faced in adjusting to higher weight classes and tougher opponents. De La Hoya emphasized that such hurdles are part of a boxer's journey and further show Crawford's resilience and adaptability. By calling it a super fight, De La Hoya also guessed when the fight would happen and how big of an event it could be. He made people more excited about a fight that could be one of the most exciting in recent boxing history. Ortiz also shared his thoughts on his next fight, highlighting his readiness to face any opponent and commenting on his desire to create memorable bouts for fans.
He probably fought the toughest guy. Not the most dangerous guy, but the toughest guy. But I think that Crawford and Vergil Ortiz next year, first quarter, will be a super fight.
He stated, "I mean, you know, it's really, I don't know what fight would be next. You know, we do have a few names lined up, and that's part of the reason why I'm here to I talk business and see who we're going to have lined up." Ortiz stated that the next steps in his career are still being planned while acknowledging the uncertainty of his next opponent. He expressed his participation in discussions to shape his future matchups. He stated, "But I mean, I'm ready for any of those fights. You know, I'm always down for a great fight. I love it when people come up to me and say, 'Man, I loved your fight,' like it was so exciting. You know, I get a kick out of that." He emphasized his readiness and enthusiasm for providing thrilling fights. For Ortiz, the joy of boxing is tied to the excitement it brings to fans and the pride he takes in being part of great bouts. He stated, "You know, it's like, yeah, I did that, so I take pride in that, you know, to be a part of fights that people will enjoy for years to come. Yeah, it's just awesome." Ortiz reflected on his love for creating moments that fans cherish. His commitment to being a fighter who entertains while achieving greatness sets him apart as a standout personality in the sport. Ortiz also discussed his openness to facing either Jaron Ennis or Terence Crawford, showing his ambition and focus on proving himself as one of the sport's best. He stated, "I mean, honestly, both. I mean, I want them both. I really do. I think those are some great fights to be made." Ortiz made it clear that he is willing to face either Ennis or Crawford, recognizing the significance of both matchups. His eagerness to take on challenging fights underscores his ambition to compete at the highest level. He stated, "And like I said, you know, I don't want to fight people because I have beef with them. You know, I think they're excellent fighters, and I would like to prove myself." He clarified that his motivations are not rooted in rivalry but in respect for his opponents. Ortiz's focus is on proving himself against the best, showing maturity and professionalism in his approach. He stated, "And I know the fans want those fights, you know, so it kind of makes me that much more motivated and excited to be in those kinds of fights." Ortiz acknowledged the excitement these potential bouts bring to fans and how that fuels his own motivation. His passion for delivering thrilling fights further cements his role as one of the most exciting contenders in boxing today as the announcement of Vergil Ortiz versus Terence Crawford continues to generate buzz. Boxing professionals and analysts have started weighing in on the implications of this high-stakes matchup, from the potential risks and rewards to the impact on the sports landscape. Their insights add depth to the conversation. One such voice is Paulie Malaghy, known for his sharp insights and candid opinions, who weighed in on the potential matchup between Vergil Ortiz and Terence Crawford. He offered a critical perspective on the risks, implications, and narratives surrounding this highly anticipated matchup. Malaghy discussed the business dynamics of this fight, highlighting the risks for Golden Boy Promotions if Ortiz were to lose and Crawford walked away with all the momentum.
Because Crawford doesn't belong to Golden Boy, so if Crawford does beat Vergil, then you end up just keeping your defeated fighter. Take all the momentum is lost, and Crawford will leave and get with all the momentum he's taken with him. Usually, you're going to want some kind of option, or at least if you're going to take that kind of a risk fight. Listen, enough money is there, the fight will get made. We've seen that with Turki Al-Sheikh.
This comment highlights the delicate balance in boxing promotions, where a loss can have significant repercussions for a fighter's career and the promotion's future plans. Molly Nagy's analysis underscores the stakes for Ortiz and Golden Boy Promotions in this matchup, shifting his focus. Malaghy critiqued the trend of framing challenging matchups as tune-up fights and emphasized the importance of maintaining authenticity in promoting fights. He stated, "Listen, enough money is there. The fights will get made. We've seen that with Turki. Eli, I will say this about Turki, a lick. All due respect here, okay, because I've given criticism and I've given praise when it's necessary." He further continued and stated, "With all due respect, you are not making tune-up fights. Okay, stop talking like you're making tune-up fights because this is Malagi calls out the industry practice of diminishing the significance of certain fights by labeling them as tune-ups. His remarks highlight the need for transparency and respect for the fighters stepping into the ring. Malinaji also pointed out past instances where premature plans for high-profile fights undermined immediate matchups, often leading to disastrous outcomes. He stated he's constantly done this before. He did it with AJ and Wilder, where he was planning that fight all while Wilder and Zhang were getting ready to fight. He actually stepped on his own card where that was the main event and made it like he was going to make AJ and Wilder completely disrespect Zhang, and then Zhang knocked out Wilder so that fight imploded. This example serves as a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of boxing and the potential consequences of overlooking current opponents in favor of future plans. Mali also criticized the premature framing of Vergil Ortiz as Crawford's next opponent, raising concerns about sidelining other credible matchups. He stated he did it again before this fight. Here he started making like Virgil Ortiz was next for Crawford when Canelo was out the door and wasn't rude to him. All of a sudden you're treating Boachuk like he's a tuna. Malagi pointed out how this approach disrespects fighters like Boachuk, framing them as lesser opponents. His remarks underline the importance of recognizing the value of every matchup and the danger of dismissing skilled boxers as tune-ups. He continued to stress the importance of maintaining consistency and fairness in promoting fights while acknowledging the quality of recent matchups. He stated either you want to make great fights and you make great fights, and we love the great fights Turkey makes. I am all for them, and I think all of boxing. I speak for all of boxing when I say keep them coming. Malagi applauded the competitive matchups being made but urged for a balanced approach that respects all fighters in the ring. His perspective highlights the need for boxing to focus on fairness alongside delivering excitement for fans. He also emphasized the risks in boxing and cautioned against overconfidence in scripting outcomes, particularly when matchups are so evenly balanced. He stated, "But stop talking like they're tune-up fights. Stop planning. You can't script this, especially when you're making very even matchups. You've seen yourself that there's a lot of upsets in the making." He expressed his disappointment and stated, "Alright, this fight was almost an upset. It could have been an upset, and the spineless boxing media that never ceases to surprise me and amaze me."
What were they doing right away? Just because Turkey was saying Crawford next, as soon as the fight's over, how many headlines did you see? Ortiz wins, eyes Crawford next.
All of
Ortiz wins, eyes. They are spineless. They have no backbone, no morals. They will kiss anybody's ass just to keep the momentum going. They've always been spineless. I've noticed it my whole career, and even after my career, they continue to be spineless. That was disgusting. Nobody clamoring in the media for a rematch where half the population thinks Boachuk won. This was a fight of the year candidate. Boachuk versus Ortiz rematch will be a better fight than Ortiz versus Crawford anyway. Ortiz versus Crawford, it's interesting. There's no way it's going to entertain the way Boachuk and Ortiz just entertained and would entertain again. The fight to make, the future to make, the fight is Boachuk and Ortiz and Boachuk 2. Ortiz and Boachuk 2. That's the fight to make next.
Mali advocated for a rematch between Ortiz and Boachuk, suggesting it might offer more excitement than Ortiz versus Crawford. He stated, "And even after my career, they continued to be spinel. That was disgusting. Nobody clamoring in the media for a rematch where half the population thinks Boachuk won. This was a fight of the year candidate." He further continued and highlighted the importance of the rematch by declaring it a better match and stated Boachuk versus Ortiz rematch would be a better fight than Ortiz versus Crawford. Anyway, Crawford is interesting, but there's no way it's going to entertain the way Boachuk and Ortiz entertain and would entertain again. He emphasized the potential of a rematch and challenged the assumption that Ortiz versus Crawford is the most compelling fight. On the horizon, he doubles down on his belief that Ortiz versus Boachuk 2 is the fight to make next rather than Ortiz versus Crawford. He stated the fight to make, the future fight to make is Boachuk and Ortiz and Boachuk 2. That's the fight to make next. This remark underscores his belief in the entertainment value and competitive potential of a rematch, suggesting it may better serve fans and the sport. Meanwhile, Timothy Bradley also shared his thoughts on Ortiz's mindset, his development as a fighter, and the practical considerations behind choosing the next opponent. He stated, "Well, what would be my option? Follow the money. That's what every fighter's option is going to be. Follow the money where you're going to get the most money." Bradley began by acknowledging the financial aspect of boxing, pointing out that fighters often prioritize lucrative opportunities. This pragmatic approach shapes much of the decision-making in the sport.
I'll say this about Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz, I've watched him in the past do interviews about Terence Crawford. He feels that no one can beat him. I mean, just with him saying that, I don't even think that he believes that he can beat Terence Crawford.
He questioned Ortiz's confidence in taking on Crawford, suggesting that while Ortiz has a strong self-belief, facing Crawford might reveal limits he hasn't yet encountered. Bradley implied that Ortiz still had growth ahead before tackling such a formidable opponent, and he stated Ortiz did a damn good job. Ortiz actually showed me and checked a lot of the boxes that I had questions about. What happens when he goes down? Can he stay concentrated? What is the conditioning like on the back end of fights? I have all these questions, and he checked all the boxes. Guys, he did. He's a fantastic fighter. Bradley praised Ortiz's performance and resilience, but he also emphasized the need for further development before facing someone of Crawford's caliber. He suggested a rematch with Bohachik as a more suitable next step. Bradley elaborated further on his belief that Ortiz's next move should be a rematch with Bohachik, citing the close nature of their last fight and the financial realities of the sport. He remarked on the intensity of the fight, saying he fought as hard as he could to the end and got the decision. However, many of us that were watching felt that Bohachik won the fight. So what would I do? Run it back. That's what I would do. Bradley highlighted the controversial outcome and the merit of giving Bohachik another shot in what could be a highly anticipated rematch. However, Bradley acknowledged the financial pull of a potential fight with Terence Crawford. He stated, "Fighters, they're going to follow the money if a Terence Crawford fight was to materialize for Virgil Ortiz. He will not pass it up, and I don't blame him. You want to know why? Because the money is damn good, guys, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day." While he advocated for a rematch with Bohachik, Bradley recognized the economic realities of boxing, suggesting that the Crawford fight might overshadow other considerations. Meanwhile, Chris O'Leary focused on the business side of Ortiz versus Crawford, questioning whether it is truly the most obvious next step for Ortiz. He stated, "Well, let's ask that question. Is it the obvious next step? Just because Turkey said it doesn't necessarily mean it is. So if you speak to Oscar de la Hoya, the promoter of Virgil Ortiz, he was not talking about fighting Terence Crawford." Next, Algerie pointed out that de la Hoya had previously discussed other potential matchups like Tim Tszyu, indicating that Crawford might not have been Ortiz's immediate target. He stated Virgil Ortiz is probably coming up on being the next biggest star in the division behind Terence Crawford himself, so it does make sense in terms of that, but you've got to see what Ortiz and his team want to do. He just had a very tough fight that many people actually thought he lost. He highlighted Ortiz's rising stardom but acknowledged the controversy surrounding his last fight, which might influence decisions about his next step. Algerie suggested that Ortiz may need to regroup before jumping into a high-stakes fight. Algerie emphasized the unpredictable nature of boxing negotiations, hinting that Ortiz's path might diverge from public expectations.
At the end of the day, this is business. It's not always the fights that seem the most obvious that get made. So I'm curious to see where this goes in the future. But like I said, De La Hoya was looking elsewhere before Turki Al-Ashik had brought up the Crawford fight.
Teddy Atlas also shared his admiration for Ortiz's potential while urging caution in matching him against top-tier opponents like Crawford soon. He stated, "I like him a lot. I like him after the fight. The way he conducts himself, the way he talks. He's articulate. He's a gentleman. He's humble." Atlas praised Ortiz's personality and professionalism, noting that these traits complement his in-ring abilities and make him a promising figure in the sport. "I like the way he fights. I like the way he's growing." That's the key word, growing. Let him continue developing. He's young. Let him keep growing. Let him keep getting better. Keep him away from Crawford. Keep him away from those guys. You just mentioned there's no need to go there right now. He stressed the importance of allowing Ortiz to develop as a fighter, suggesting that a fight against Crawford or other top-tier opponents might come too soon in Ortiz's career. Those guys are special. That would be like back in the 80s saying keep someone away from Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, or Roberto Duran. No knock on him. Those guys are special. Keep him away. He's not ready yet. Atlas Drew makes comparisons to legends of the past to highlight the skill gap Ortiz might face against Crawford. His statements mirrored a protective approach to Ortiz's career, advocating for patience over rushing into high-risk matchups. As the debate around Virgil Ortiz's next steps continues, the fighter himself has stayed steadfast in his ambition. Ortiz expressed his desire to face Terence Crawford, whom he sees as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Ortiz also expressed respect for Crawford but also stressed his belief in his own ability to beat him, framing the possible matchup as a personal test of his skills and determination.
Who are 5 fighters that you would like to fight coming up?
So we got Tim Tszyu, we got Crawford, Spence, or I guess you can say the winner of Spence or Fundora. Charlo's a good one. Who else we got at 54?
You want to fight Terence Crawford right now?
I would love to fight him, man. I think he's like probably the #1 pound for pound fighter right
Do
now.
you think he's out of his peak?
No,
Or is he in his peak now?
I think he's in his peak.
And you're saying you could be the peak prime Terence Crawford?
I'm saying I believe that I can.
I respect it 100%.
I believe that I can. No, I respect him as a fighter though. That's the thing. When I want to fight people, it doesn't mean that, oh, I don't like you. Like, let's get it on. It's more like I respect your skills and I want to see if I can beat you. It's like that.
What do you think Virgil Ortiz can do to rise to the task and dethrone one of the greatest fighters of this era? Leave a review and subscribe for more updates and videos like this.